Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, and I am right here on this station every single Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. to bring you, the Pennsylvania landowner, the information that you need regarding natural gas development. And boy, I hope you have not forgotten, but Doug Clark, the Clark Law Firm, only represents Pennsylvania landowners, oil and gas right owners. Have not, do not, and listen, I will not represent gas or pipeline companies. I represent proudly Pennsylvania landowners and Pennsylvania gas right owners. Never companies. Never have, never, ever, ever will. So I represent landowners for such things as oil and gas lease negotiations, reviews, consultations on any oil and gas related matter, royalty issues, unitization issues, breach of contract claims, real estate sales relating to oil and gas right transactions. Oil and gas right transactions. If you're going to or considering selling your oil and gas rights, I am telling you, call the office or call someone, but do not simply sign those option documents. Get assistance. Those option documents, surprisingly, like virtually every document presented in the oil and gas arena, is very favorable to the other side. So if you're thinking about selling your oil and gas rights, please give us a call, because too many people are entering into very, very bad, in my opinion, very bad option agreements that are extremely favorable to the other side. And simply, we can and need to stop it. We can stop it, and we need to stop it. And I've done it. I've represented many people. Look, it's not like I'm some kind of genius that everyone think that, hey, this guy's the greatest guy in the world. No, if you know what you're doing and you have the experience, you can make these an even playing field document. You should not simply sign, in my opinion, any document presented by a gas or pipeline company or a company or individual seeking to acquire your oil and gas rights. There are a lot of wolves out there, and we need to stop. We need to make sure that the landowners are not being treated as sheep. We need to even this playing field. We need to protect you, the Pennsylvania landowner, because if you don't do it, your attorneys don't do it, then who's going to do it? Sure as heck, not the companies. Sure as heck, not the companies. Nor the person or company seeking to permanently purchase your oil and gas rights. They're certainly not out to help you or protect you. They're out for themselves, as they should be. Again, I represent people for surface use agreements, any and all contracts related to oil and gas development, royalty deduction issues, you name it, oil and gas related, we handle it. So you can always contact us, learn more about what we do, find out how we do things, 570-307-0702. Do not be afraid to pick up the phone. We are very friendly people who are here to help you. I don't want to have anyone discouraged. I've never called a lawyer. Listen, give us a call and see what you think. And again, this isn't to preach to try to get people to call. It's to try to get people who may be hesitant to call to give us a call. Learn about what we do. Go check out our websites. See who we are. Read about me. Read about the Clark Law Firm. Read the testimonials submitted by prior clients. Find out who we are. Do your research. Very, very proud, very, very confident in our reputation for helping people, and we want to help you. I want to help you. I really, really do. Keep listening to the show. Go back to pagasleaseattorney.com. Go back to pipelineattorney.com. Check out prior radio shows. Read up, get information, and then give us a call. Give us a call. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of distance, because what's happening is that, and I get afraid that people are afraid to call. And I just don't want that to occur. That first call, there's no fee. Learn about what we do. Okay, and you'll find out and say, hey, this is we want to go further or not. That's entirely up to you guys. One thing we've never have and never will pressure anybody ever. That's insane to hire us. So the idea is, don't be afraid, no matter where you are. I have clients all across Pennsylvania. I have clients right now have just doing some discussions with some gentlemen in Canada who have gas rights in Pennsylvania, and that's not uncommon. I've represented other people in Canada, Alaska, London, Micronesia, I always like to say that one, and all across the country. So don't be afraid. That's my point. I think about my parents out there, may hear somebody in the radio and say, oh, I don't know about calling a guy. Give us a call. Learn about what we do. I promise you, listen, it's what I do. It's my job. It's how I feed my family, how I take care of my family. But at the same time, it's an incredible opportunity to help you, the Pennsylvania landowner. And that's what I want to do. So look, if you don't call me, call someone, but keep listening to the show, become educated, and understand how this whole process works. Understand how it works, because people are routinely being taken advantage of by the wolves, and they're being taken advantage of because the people do not have the information that you need. So we're going to continue to provide the best information we can through the radio show, through the websites, but keep tuning in and give us a call if you have any legal issue that you think we can help. And we'll tell you, hey, I don't think I can help you. Marcia here will say, hey, look, spoke with Doug, don't think we can help you. We'll give you our honest assessment. Honesty and credibility. I'm very proud of that, and I think we have it. I can't say the same about everybody else. I can't say the same about all the different people on the other side, but I can say, check us out. We want to help you. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember to tune in each and every week right here at this time on this station for All Things Marcellus. Okay, let's jump into it here. And it's another one of those days, boy. I started out, I said, I'm going to try to stay calm. And then there I go. I start getting excited. And look, I am excited. And see, I can't even talk. I'm excited because it continues. I know I'm a broken record, and I'm sorry, but week after week, I see people signing these documents that I say, my heavens, I know, because some people are calling me. I know that other people around the people who are calling me aren't calling, and almost certainly aren't getting attorneys and are not getting the information that they need. Remember, the companies have attorneys. The companies have experienced individuals working for decades in the industry. They hire landmen consulting, broker firms hired with decades and decades and decades of experience to go and get the best possible agreement in their favor. I'm sure psychological studies, what do? We learn from experience. What is the best way to present something to a landowner? This is big, big business. You have to protect yourself. If you never needed a lawyer, you need one when you're dealing with these contracts. And whether it's me or someone else, get a good lawyer who knows what they're doing, because mistakes can cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and it's not an exaggeration, millions of dollars. And too many people are just signing documents and making enormous mistakes, and we have to stop it. And that's why I say, don't be afraid to call. Get information. Go to the websites. Get information. Okay, so I always talk about this concept of partnership. Oh, yes, we want to be a partnership. Makes me want to smash my head off the wall. Sorry, but it does. Because I heard that. I remember the first meeting that I went to for my wife and our family's property back in 2007. The first meeting I went to. And I heard this guy talk. And I was like, oh, wow, this is pretty amazing. Oh, wow, this is pretty neat stuff. And here I am sitting there, my first exposure, saying, wow, this seems pretty good. So I understand. Believe me, I understand. I went through it, how it can seem so attractive. And you say, wow, this guy, he sounds great. This is going to be a partnership. Everyone's going to do well. I'm going to get money. They're going to make money. This is so great for the area, so on and so on and so on. Let me tell you, that all sounds good, but there is no partnership. Let me break the news. There is no partnership. No partnership exists. I talked about what a fiduciary duty was a couple weeks ago. I'm not going to go back into that again now, but I came across something, and here's another thing. Things are happening legally. Legally, the courts are making decisions, and they're having an impact then on how companies operate. So companies see and they develop and evolve and adjust based upon court decisions that come out in Pennsylvania that affect the industry. You as a landowner are going to have, unless you're reading all these court cases, you're going to have no idea about that. You're going to have no idea about that. And you may be presented with a new contract when you think, hey, I already have a lease, or, don't I already have an agreement? You may be presented with something else, and there's going to be a reason for that. And let me tell you, that reason is not going to be for your benefit. It may be that a recent court case came out that allowed a company to do something a certain way that would be much more favorable for the company than the landowner. So what do? They then put that into their contracts, and they start presenting those as the new contract form to the landowner. Or maybe they'll come to you and say, hey, we'd like to amend your contract. I'm not going to get to my end here. I don't want to jump too far, but we're going to talk about a great example. And I talk a lot about Tioga County just because there's so much happening there. But again, this isn't limited solely to Tioga County, but this is a new Tioga County issue that just surfaced this week, where landowners with leases are presented new leases. And why? And you have to ask yourself every time you're given a document, why am I given this document? Also, remember, every time you're given a document, you put your pen down, you shut the drawer. If you have a lock, you lock the pen in the drawer. You don't sign, you listen, and then you go and you get yourself a good lawyer. If you want one, you know where to find one. 570-307-0702. But seriously, that's what you should do. That is what you should do, because don't be a sheep. They're the wolves. They're looking to do the best they can for themselves, not for you. If you don't believe me, believe the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Believe the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I'm going to tell you what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said after the break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You join me right here every single Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Call us 570-307-0702. That's 570-307-0702. There's been a lot more new leasing activity going on, getting a lot more calls on pipelines in northeastern Pennsylvania, regardless of where you're located. 570-307-0702. Do not just sign these documents. Get help. Get a good lawyer. I'll be back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. It's great to be with you. And remember, you can join me every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station. And you can call to learn about what we do, see if we're right for you, see if we can help you. 570-307-0702. No matter where you're located, Pennsylvania rights, Pennsylvania land, give us a call, 570-307-0702. Pretty confident we can help you. Okay, so let's talk partnership. The old P word, gas company, landman. How many times, guys? How many times have we heard about you and the company being in this partnership? Partnership. Well, no such partnership exists. No such partnership exists. Hey, listen, remember, the radio shows, you can go back. You can hear today's show on Monday morning. You can go check out the show online on the websites at either pagasleaseattorney.com or pipelineattorney.com. Why do I say that right now? Not just simply a plug, but in part a plug. But I want you to go to these websites, whether you're looking for representation or information, quality information. Go to pagasleaseattorney.com. Go to pipelineattorney.com. Or go to listen to the prior radio shows. If you can't tune in each week, hey, the show will be up on Monday, and it'll be up for at least a year or two. So you can go now. There's, I don't know how many, probably 100 plus shows. Go check them out. So why do I say that now again? All right, because I'm about to tell you why there's no partnership between you and the gas company. So you can go back, and so when the landman comes to your door and starts telling you about the partnership, you can go write this, go to the website, write this down, reference this case, say, hey, what about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? They're not talking about a partnership. Well, what do I mean? So the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, now this comes from a recent decision, it was just this past week, but not the Supreme Court, but this is a different decision referencing or citing to a Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision, where the Pennsylvania Supreme Court made clear that a lessor, being the landowner, oil and gas right owner, and the lessee, being the gas company, in an oil and gas lease, listen, this is a quote from this decision, do not share a special or fiduciary relationship. This is a Colgan case. But then it goes on. Here's the quote. There is no relation of special trust or confidence between the lessor, landowner, and lessee, gas company, in oil and gas leases, any more than any other. Like all contracting parties, they deal at arm's length. Here's a big part here. Pay attention, please. Each with his own interest. Let me repeat that. So gas leases, just like any other contract, like all other contracting parties, they deal, meaning you and the companies, deal at arm's length, each with his own interest, not a shared interest, each with your own interest. This is not me. This is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. Pennsylvania Supreme Court, each with their own interest. So long as the question is one of business judgment and management, the lessee company is not bound to work unprofitably to himself for the profit of the lessor landowner. And the parties must be left, as in other cases, to their own ways. It is only when a manifestly fraudulent use of opportunities and control is shown that the courts are authorized to interfere. Let me repeat that. It's only when a manifestly fraudulent use of opportunities and control is shown that courts are authorized to interfere. Ladies and gentlemen, don't take my word for it. Take the Supreme Court's word for it. Don't take the landman's word for it. Don't take the company's word for it. Take the Supreme Court's word for it. There's no darn partnership. And when you start hearing that partnership, go back, rewind the tape, write it down, say, well, what about this Colgan Pennsylvania Supreme Court? What about that? What about where it says, like all other contracting parties, we deal at arm's length, each with our own interest? Is your interest as a company not, like I said, the fiduciary relationship is to the shareholders to maximize profit for the company, not you, the landowner? Isn't it a wonderful state of affairs when you as a company can convince the other side, you being the landowner, that the company and you are in a partnership? Isn't that a great thing? Think about that. You're negotiating a contract with an adversary, an adversarial process. You're negotiating a contract with someone who should be looking for their best interest, but you have them believing, or you've convinced them that you're somehow in a partnership. Wow, that's a nice place to negotiate from. That's a real nice place to negotiate from. Or you say, hey, I'm going to make you rich. We're going to be in a partnership. Landowner says, oh, wow, I like the sounds of that. Well, who doesn't? Who doesn't? So you say, partnership, 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 money, 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 rich, rich, rich. Here's your pen. But what about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? Like all other contracting parties, they deal at arm's length. You and the company should be dealing, because that's what the way law looks at it, at arm's length, each with your own interest. And let's break that down. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Let's break it down, each with their own interest. What is the gas or pipeline company's interests? Think about it. What is their interest? Their interest is to make as much money as they can and generate as much profit as they can, and they have a fiduciary relationship to their shareholders who say, company, make all the money you can. What is your interest? To do the best that you can for yourself, your family, your property, for today and into future generations. Those interests collide. They collide. So if the company is going to offer you, if you want $100,000, a company doesn't, and the company wants to offer you $50,000, well, their job or their goal is to keep that money as low as possible. Your goal and job is to try to get as much money as possible. It's that simple. It's that simple. When they come to you with these agreements, they're coming to you with agreements, especially, but don't read too much into this, but especially that first document. They're coming to you with that in hopes that you'll sign. And why? Because there is an unbelievable, and it pains me so much, there's an unbelievable amount of people that will just sign what is placed in front of them because of partnership and promises of future riches. And they know that Pennsylvanians are good people. They know that rural Pennsylvanians are good people. They know that we, as a kid who grew up in Armstrong County, we, as a kid who drove the bus 50 minutes to an hour every day to school, every day, knows that we take a handshake. We believe in somebody's word. And again, I think I take pride in that because I keep my word and I have, I believe, outstanding credibility because of the way I grew up and the way I was taught. But I also recognize that that's a way that people can take advantage of people. And my father and my grandfather over time, years ago, when they were at Coles Things, and my great-grandfather, and the gas lease for the family farm, all of those things, they were most likely taken advantage of, and they were, in my opinion, because they were good people. And they believe what's being told to them, because that's how we treat people. But listen, unfortunately, again, unbelievably, we have to say, these guys, this isn't the same thing here. You know, this isn't hey, farmer A is going to sell some hay out of his field to farmer B. Let's shake hands, and that's what our deal is. That's not what we're dealing with here. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with Fortune 500 companies with in-house lawyers, hundreds of staff paid and trained to get the most money, best deals they can for themselves. We need to protect you guys. We need to protect our Pennsylvania landowners. And whether it's protection through my office or someone else, get protection. Stop signing bad agreements. Get protection. And I'll tell you this, the companies don't like it because they just want to steamroll over people who are just going to sign documents. We got to stop just signing documents. Whether you ever talk to me, my personal opinion, stop signing documents when they're being presented to you. Get a lawyer. I'd love for you to call, but call someone else. Get a lawyer. Too many people are being taken advantage of over and over again. And you get a reputation. You've heard me say this before. Oh, Mr. Jones, he'll sign anything. Boom, here you go. The more you sign, the more you tend to get taken advantage of. So we have to stop it. It's never too late to stop it, but we have to stop it. We really have to stop it. And it's whether I talk to you guys or I don't talk to you, we have to stop that Pennsylvania landowners, like my parents, like my grandparents, like all my neighbors and cousins and relatives that lived all around me, who had farm property in Armstrong County, Parks Township, look it up. I'm making this stuff up. We got to stop people like that, good people, being taken advantage of because they're trusting. And if you're trusting, you're more susceptible. So please be careful. And if you take one thing from today's show, and hopefully you're going to take a lot, but if you take one thing, please take, there is no partnership. There is no partnership. Also, when the landman tells you, oh, I'm real pro landowner, I'm fighting for you. I am fighting for you. I, landman, employed by the company, am fighting for you. If you're being told that, say, well, geez, landman, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court says that in this case, that like all other contracts, all other contracting parties, we deal at arm's length, each with our own interest. Pennsylvania Supreme Court, we each have our own interests, and they are not the same. Your interest is to get the best agreement that you can for the company. The company's interest is to maximize profits for the shareholders. They are not your partner. Yes, you may get a side, hopefully, that's the goal. You may get the side benefit, and it may be an outstanding benefit of royalties. However, that's a byproduct. That's not this partnership. No. There is no partnership. There's no partnership. What it is you enter into an agreement. They enter into an agreement to pay you the least amount of money they possibly can based upon what they're able to get from you. That's their agreement. Your agreement is to get the most money I can and to protect my property and to secure wealth for future generations. That's what you're seeking to do. Again, those are opposite, and they should be. So the person negotiating for the other side, who's trying to get the least amount of money possible to pay you, is not working for you. Here it is. The landman, remember, works for the gas and pipeline company, whose job is to get the best agreement for themselves and their shareholders. The landman does not work for you, the land or oil and gas right owner. Don't take it from me. Take it from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. All right, getting a little fired up. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I say it because it just drives me crazy because time and time again, I'm seeing people just signing bad agreements because they say, oh, okay, yeah, we're partners. They want to give me a bunch of money. Where do I sign? Think about that. We have to be smarter. Give us a call, 570-307-0702. Tune in every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station. Also, check out pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Don't miss these resources. These are resources for you. So whether you call 570-307-0702 or not, use the resources. We really do want to help and educate Pennsylvania landowners and oil and gas right owners. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember, you can always call me, 570-307-0702. Learn what we can do. You have any agreement, any oil and gas issue, royalty, unitization, breach of contract, amendments, reviews, consultations, anything. Give us a call, see if we can help you, 570-307-0702, and make sure you tune in right here on this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. So, okay, I want to talk about, in a second here, well, in a couple minutes, I'm going to talk about the idea of landowners having a lease. You have a lease in place. You have an existing oil and gas lease that has not expired, and the company that you're leased to, the same company that you're leased to, comes and offers you a new lease. And why is that? I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's my little tease, little radio jargon. But before I do that, I want to read another thing. This is our little case day. Here's another case, and this is the Pennsylvania General Energy Company, LLC versus Hershey. And this was a recently decided case in February 2017. And the case blurb, if you will, is the following. Superior Court of Pennsylvania held that a landowner, listen to this, had to pay back $238,500. That's $238,500. So over $250,000. Superior Court of Pennsylvania held that a landowner had to pay back $238,500 in bonus payments following a determination that he, being the landowner, had bad title to the oil and gas he leased to the gas company. Despite the landowners, and this is what they call it, curious claims. So the gas company says to the landowner, sues the landowner, says, we want our money back. Landowner has to pay back. Court rules, you have to pay back, landowner, the $238,500. So over $250,000. You have to pay that back to the company because you have bad title to oil and gas. So let's back up. You get a gas lease offer, and if say you had 100 acres and they were offering you $2,000 an acre, that's $200,000. In this case, it was even more money, but we'll use nice simple math because that's what we like to do. So you have an offer, $1,000 or $2,000 an acre. You have 100 acres, so you sign the lease. The company gives you $200,000 because that was your bargain. So within 90 days, 120 days, you receive this payment of $200,000. Then you get a knock on the door. Excuse me, landowner, we'd like our $200,000 back. Well, what do you mean, company? You paid me $200,000. Company says, well, we've subsequently determined you actually do not own your oil and gas rights. So you say, whoa, wait a second, though. Why did you give me the $200,000? Which, by the way, maybe the landowner spent. Maybe the landowner bought a house, paid off their mortgage, whatever the case may have been. Heck, maybe they flew off to Vegas and had one heck of a month. Who knows? Whatever it may be. Maybe it was paid for medical bills. Maybe it was paid for whatever the situation, paying off debt, putting a kid in school, whatever the case may be. They give you $200,000, come back and say, hey, we determined that you don't own your oil and gas rights. I want my money. We want our money back. You say, well, wait a second. You told me that you needed, from the time that I signed this lease, that you needed 90 or 120 days to verify my title. You did that, and then you pay me. Now you come back and you want your money back. Well, I've spent that money, and I've paid taxes on that money. That's not a comfortable place to be in. So the landowner in that case argues, hey, these type of things. You voluntarily paid me. It's your fault for paying me. You said you were checking. You should have checked. That's your fault. Well, the court in this case, okay, we're talking about some hypothetical or blending in this case, but it's all how this works. The court in this case said that the landowner made, this is quote, curious claims that the lessee, being company, quote, voluntarily paid the landowner the money before checking title. It's the lessee's fault. The landowner also argued that it's the company's fault for paying without checking title first. So in this case, it looks like that the company actually didn't even check title. They paid the landowner. And the landowner said, well, hey, look, you assumed that risk. You paid me without checking title. I'm giving an example in a secondary case, hypothetical, very common. You sign a lease. Company says, we'll pay you 90, 120 days, maybe 60 days, but we have to check title. Well, again, it's the same type of principle. They pay you, and then they say, well, you know what? On second thought, looking back, you don't have title. We want our money back. In this case, apparently, the company just paid the money, then went back and said, uh-oh, You don't have title, give us our money back. But the court said that these claims, or the Superior Court of Pennsylvania held that the landowner in that case had to give back the $238,500 bonus that they received, in excess of $250,000. Had to give that back. And the landowner said, as I'm sure all of my listeners would say, that if you had a lease and they paid you and they come back, a company comes back and says, I want my money. Well, the landowner is going to say, well, wait a second. You paid me. You voluntarily paid me. It's your fault. You didn't check title, or you found a title defect later, but you paid me. Well, in this case, the Superior Court said, well, landowner, you got to give the money back. So what do? Well, what we do is we protect you in your oil and gas lease. You don't warrant or guarantee that you have title to your oil and gas rights. You say, company, look, you pay me. That is on you. That's your job. You have the responsibility to look it up, to determine whether you should pay me. Then you pay me. Don't come back to me after you pay me looking for money. And thank heavens that this doesn't come up very often, but as you can see, it sometimes does. So things like that's just one example where you got to be careful. It's just one small example where a good lawyer experienced in oil and gas would say, hey, landowner, we would like to add some addendum language to this offer to protect yourself from exactly this type of activity or potential issue where the company comes back seeking their money. Again, it can be done, but you have to know what to do, and you should do it to avoid this. And it's just one of many other things that we need to do, and even the most basic situation to protect you to avoid future problems. If you're a regular listener, you know, as much to my kids' chagrin, I always tell them, look, nothing is a problem until it's a problem. You can drive down the highway going 90, and it's not a problem until you either get in an accident or you get pulled over. So it's not a problem until something bad happens. So it's not a problem to sign bad leases or bad agreements until a problem comes up, and then you may have a potential nightmare. Or, and that's even a bad example, because you sign a bad lease, the problem may be that for the next 50 to 100 years, you make half as much money, a third less money, whatever the case may be, but you make significantly less money, potentially hundreds of thousands, which is, I think, very common, or even into the millions of dollars. And we need to stop those problems. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Make sure you listen in. Join me every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. right here in this station, and check out PAGasleaseattorney.com, PipelineAttorney.com for information and prior radio shows. And today's show will be up tomorrow morning. PAGasleaseattorney.com, PipelineAttorney.com. Go get educated, get information. Whether you're looking for representation or a resource, check out the websites. You can always call us 570-307-0702. Okay, so no one wants that knock on the door saying, you got to give me your money back, landowner. So it's usually a thing that's relatively simple to protect against, but it's something that most landowners aren't going to know to do. But somebody with some basic oil and gas experience would know how to do that. And that's just one small point. There are many points similar to that, but it's not a small point when that knock on the door comes and they say, hey, give me my $250,000 back. That's not a small point. But if that person would have called me before they signed and we talked, we would have looked to address that issue. And if we could not address that issue, we would have a discussion about how we couldn't address it, what that potential impact would be, and we would discuss whether we had concerns that there might be a knock on the door asking for the money back, and you would be prepared for that situation. I just stress, this is one small example, but it's a small example, in this case, totaling over $250,000. Relatively easy to protect against. This person apparently did not protect against this. We need to stop things like this. This is, again, though, one small example. It's all that it is. So, okay, here's my tease for the next section. We're going to talk about when, and I'll put it this way. Here's what I have a suspicion. I have a suspicion that something is occurring this happens again. I know I have listeners all over the state, but this happens in Tioga County. It looks like it's starting. 2 calls this past week where landowners with existing leases are offered new leases for their entire property. And not only do they have these existing leases with their property, this property is already placed into production units. So it's what we call unitized. So you have an existing lease with the company, the property is unitized, and that very same company, your lease is active, it has not terminated, it has more time left on it, but you've been unitized, so you're held under the lease. So that lease can go on forever as long as there's oil and gas capable of being produced. Well, why is the company offering you a new lease? And let's throw this in. Let's pretend, let's pretend that, we'll use a hypothetical, that your original lease, because not every situation is the same. Let's just use this hypothetical, which may or may not be true in certain circumstances, but pay attention if you're in this area. Your original lease offers you 12.5% royalty. The new lease offer is 15% royalty. Pretty darn basic. 15 greater than, larger than, bigger than 12.5%. That sounds like a good deal. Why wouldn't I want 15% when my current lease is only 12.5%? Well, if you listen to the entire show, you heard earlier, what is the company's motivation? To maximize company profits. They have, if you listen to 2 weeks, I think it was ago, the companies have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to maximize profits. So why are they giving you or offering you, in my hypothetical, a 15% lease when you currently have a 12.5% lease? Well, think about it. I'll explain after this break my opinion, my theory. I have a lot of confidence in it, but it's mine. You think about it. You decide what you think. We'll get into this here in the next break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Remember to join me right here on this station each and every week from 8 to 9 a.m. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm going to jump right into it. So, okay, here's the scenario. We're going to create this. We'll do this hypothetically, and we'll do it hypothetically. So, okay, here you are. You're sitting out there. First off, anytime you get a document, put your pen down would be my advice. But sitting out there, you have an existing oil and gas lease that pays you 12.5% interests, and you have that lease is active. And in some cases, maybe even your property is already unitized. Maybe you're not getting royalties yet, but your property is unitized, and you have an existing gas lease. That generally will hold that lease for decades and decades and decades, as long as there's gas capable of being produced from your property. General rule. So, okay, this is a weird scenario. Here you are, you're sitting there with a gas lease, pays you 12.5% royalty, and you're in a unit, and now you get a knock on the door and a landman says, hey, we have a new gas lease for you. So, well, geez, you start scratching your head. I thought I had a gas lease. Well, they're offering you a new one. And we're going to offer you 15% royalty. You say, well, geez, I have 12.5% now, 15%. Well, that's definitely better. Okay, this sounds like a good deal. Again, remember, companies are not out there to create good deals for you. They're there to create good deals for them. I'm not going to go through all this recent case law and other developments and things like that now, but I'm going to tell you that case law evolves. Pennsylvania didn't have a lot of oil and gas activity to this degree. There was always oil and gas activity, but they didn't have horizontal drilling. And there's a lot of things and royalty payments and deductions, affiliated sales, index pricing. A lot of these issues have never really been addressed through the Pennsylvania courts. So as things develop, Companies are watching those. You as landowners are generally not. Very few people are. But companies are. They're watching them more closely than anyone. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Join me each week at this time on this station. So, companies are watching these recent decisions. They're watching the evolution and development of Pennsylvania law. They're smart. Remember, they're out to maximize profits. So what do? They say, wait a second. Hey, here's this change, or here's something that's developed. Maybe we can start calculating royalties differently. Maybe we look and we say, hey, we can, if we had a different type of lease form, we could start using index pricing. We could start using affiliated sales as ways to reduce royalty payments to landowners. Well, how do we get them to sign these agreements? How do we get a landowner who already has an existing lease to sign a new lease that's going to have a royalty calculation method that is less beneficial for them? How can we get them to do that? Well, wouldn't take very long for a smart person following all of this from a company's side to say, hey, look, maybe this person, in our hypothetical example, this whole thing's hypothetical, says, hey, yeah, this guy has a 12.5% royalty, but his lease doesn't allow us to take deductions for post-production costs. So also maybe his lease doesn't allow us to sell it to our affiliated company or ourselves and then use a lower index price than the price we actually sell the gas for in the open market. So let's take this 12.5% lease that has good language for the landowner regarding limiting or eliminating the company's ability to take deductions for post-production costs, also which may limit or completely eliminate the company's ability to make affiliated sales, meaning sell it to an affiliated company, and then use an index price and not the price that the gas actually sells at in open market. So maybe there's those limitations in this 12.5% lease. So let's go say how nice of guys we are, and let's offer the landowner a new lease, even though they have a current existing lease. Even though the lease has property located within a drilling unit, a declaration of pooling and unitization. There is a unit recorded at the courthouse that includes this property. This property is held, whether you're getting royalties or not. By the terms of the lease, the property is held. So how do we get the guy to sign this? Well, let's bump up the royalty percent. Let's tell them we want to give them 15%. Let's have them focus on 15% because 15% is better than 12.5%. You have 12.5% in your existing lease. Company says, hey, we want to give you 2.5% more. Well, sure, that sounds great. Give me the same exact lease terms. The terms that I have now, if you just want to be a nice guy, well, add 2.5%. Sure, I'll sign. But don't give me a new lease and give me 15%, but allow yourselves now to take deductions for post-production costs. Don't give me 2.5% increase in royalty and allow yourself to take deductions. I don't want that. Again, this is all hypothetical. Also, I don't want you, company, I do not want you, company, to sell the gas to yourselves and then give me a lower price that you calculate from an index price. I don't want that to happen. I don't want it. I don't want that to happen. I want to get the best possible price I can, and I do not want to have deductions. Company says, hey, we're really nice guys. Whatever their basis is going to be, again, all hypothetical. We're going to give you 15%. We're really good guys. It's been a long time. We want to give you 15%. Well, ask them in this hypothetical situation. Say, well, company, when you're giving me 15%, will you now be allowed to take deductions where you weren't allowed to take deductions when I had 12.5%? Are you now able to sell the gas to yourselves or your affiliate and then give me a lower gas price based upon a local index price. So maybe you sell the gas at $2, but the index price is $1.50. So now I'm getting 15% of $1.50 gas instead of $2, and you're taking deductions from the $1.50 price. No. I'm going to tell you this. It would take a whole, and I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'll say a whole heck of a lot more than 2.5% for me to give up my current royalty calculation method. The company would not make you an offer like that if they're going to pay you less royalties. Why would they do that? They have a fiduciary obligation to their shareholders. Remember what we talked about the first segment? You're not in a partnership. Again, you are not in a partnership. So if you're asked to sign a new gas lease when you have an existing gas lease, you better be asking yourself, why? Why am I being asked to sign this new lease? And if they're throwing out a carrot of 2.5%, well, their other hand is now taking away your royalty without deduction provision, now taking away your protection on affiliated sales, but simultaneously handing you a measly 2.5% for what they're taking away. Not good. Not what you wanted to do. Not what you want to do. So be careful. Tioga County, it's happening there. Well, I think it's happening there. So pay attention. I think my hypothetical is happening. Pay attention. Brand new, just seeing it. Please pay attention. Pay attention. Spread the word. We have to remember that when companies come to you and they offer you something, there's got to be, they're not operating for your benefit. They're operating for their benefit. I get a lot of reviews and consultations for lease amendments and modifications. Northeastern Pennsylvania, it's happening a lot now. There are more and more pipeline agreements in northeastern Pennsylvania. Things are heating up. This is going to be a good year for some development. Watch the contracts. Give us a call. Getting more and more activity in Susquehanna, Bradford, Wyoming, and those counties. We want to help you. I want to help you. Learn what we can do. Give us a call. 570-307-0702. We're seeing, like I said, a lot of pickup in activity. So we want to make sure that we've learned from the prior mistakes and that we're going to start signing the best possible agreements that we can. And I've been getting another trend, just real quick. I'm seeing companies presenting pipeline maps without pipeline agreements, trying to get the landowner to sign off on a map now and feel committed that they've agreed to something or agreed to that location and that this is going to move forward. Look, be careful. Be careful. I wouldn't sign a map like that, or I would get a review and consultation and understand what my rights are and decide how to proceed forward. But I'm seeing a disturbing trend where companies are presenting landowners maps for pipelines before they actually present agreements. I've been doing pipeline. I've done hundreds and hundreds of pipeline agreements now with about 70 different companies. I've just seen this in the last few months. So we need to keep our eye. Why is that happening? There's a reason. We need to watch out for that. So I don't have time today, but we'll talk about it in the future. But give us a call if that's the situation, 570-307-0702. Okay, we're at the end. I want to remind everybody, stop signing bad agreements and get help. Whether me or someone else, please get help. And also, the landman, you know it, works for the gas and pipeline companies, not you, the landowner. Don't forget it. You know it. Don't forget it. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark. We'll see you next week, 8 to 9 a.m. Have a wonderful week, everyone.